You gave it your all. Years of loyalty, long hours, doing your part to serve the country. You imagined retiring with dignity, maybe even a celebration, a plaque, a handshake. But instead, you got the email, or the meeting, or the reorganization, and just like that, everything shifted. The first wave is disbelief, then comes frustration, and finally, a quiet question. Now what? If you've been laid off after 50, especially as a federal employee, it's easy to feel like the system pulled the rug out from under you. But here's the truth. This isn't the end of your story. In fact, it could be the beginning of your most empowered chapter yet. Today, we'll walk through 5 smart steps you can take right now, not just to survive this transition, but to prepare, protect, and even redefine your future. Why this matters. The stakes are real, but so are your options. Being laid off in your 50s hits differently. You're not just thinking about the next paycheck. You're thinking about retirement, benefits, family, and purpose. And as a federal employee, the stakes are uniquely high. You've likely built up pension credits, TSP savings, and health benefits that could be affected if you don't act wisely. The problem is, many federal workers get caught off guard. They think they have more time. But budget cuts, early out offers, or agency shifts can force decisions that need to be made fast and smart. That's why this video isn't just about navigating job loss. It's about understanding your benefits, protecting your long-term future, and finding a way forward with confidence. So whether you've already received notice or just want to be prepared, let's dive into the 5 things every federal employee over 50 should do right now. 1. Review your federal retirement benefits and severance options. When you're laid off after decades of federal service, it's not just a job loss. It's a turning point. One of the biggest mistakes people make in this moment is moving too fast or freezing entirely. The smarter move? Pause, breathe, and take a good look at what you've actually earned. That's exactly what David did. David, 55, had spent 28 years working at the IRS. He was loyal, consistent, and had planned to work until full retirement. But when his agency began offering early retirement, he suddenly found himself facing a huge decision. One he hadn't planned for. At first, he panicked, but then he made a smart call. He sat down with a federal HR advisor, and that changed everything. David discovered he qualified for early retirement under FERS, plus credit for unused sick leave. He hadn't realized that sick leave could boost his annuity calculation. He also learned he could withdraw from his thrift savings plan, TSP, penalty-free, due to his age and service years, and that health coverage under FEHB could continue if he met certain conditions. In short, he walked in feeling uncertain, and walked out knowing he was in a much stronger position than he thought. This is why it matters. As a federal employee, your benefits are unique, and often complex. Depending on your age, years of service, and the circumstances of your separation, you may be eligible for early retirement under FERS or CSRS, severance pay or voluntary separation, incentive payments via SIPs, TSP withdrawals without penalty, continued health insurance under FEHB, payout of unused annual leave or credit for unused sick leave. But here's the problem. Many people don't know what they qualify for, and they leave money and security on the table. The federal benefits system isn't always easy to navigate. The terms, the fine print, the calculations, it can feel overwhelming. But the good news is, you don't have to figure it out alone. Here's what you should do, starting now. Schedule a meeting with your agency's HR representative. Don't wait for them to reach out. Take the initiative. Ask specific questions about your retirement eligibility, leave balances, and severance options. Request a full breakdown of your FERS or CSRS status. If you're under FERS, confirm your service computation date, your pension estimate, and whether you meet MRA plus 10 or early out criteria. Talk to a federal benefits consultant. This could be someone within your agency, a retirement planner familiar with federal systems, or an advisor who understands TSP strategies and post-separation planning. Don't rush decisions. You may have a window to accept or decline early retirement offers. Use that time to get clear, factual information. The bottom line is this: you've earned these benefits, all of them. They're part of your service, your years of dedication, and your commitment to public work. Now is the moment to make sure you're getting everything you're entitled to. Not just to survive the next few months, but to build a secure, confident future. If you do nothing else this week, start here. Because clarity is power, and when you know what's truly available to you, the fear starts to fade, and the possibilities start to grow. 2. Rebuild your personal budget. Right now. When your income stops, your expenses don't. That's the hard truth, and for many federal employees, especially over 50, it hits fast and heavy. But here's the good news. A clear, honest budget can give you something just as powerful as a paycheck. Peace of mind. Take Karen, for example. She's 52, from Michigan, and had worked at the Department of Transportation for over 2 decades. When she was laid off, her first instinct was to panic. The mortgage, the car, her daughter's college tuition. It all started swirling in her mind. But instead of spiraling, Karen took action. That same weekend, she and her husband sat down at the kitchen table with a notebook, a calculator, and 2 cups of coffee. They mapped out every expense: housing, groceries, insurance, gas. Then they looked at the extras: the second streaming service, gym memberships, takeout, subscriptions they barely used. Together, they created a 6-month spending plan. It wasn't fancy, but it was realistic, and more importantly, it gave them breathing room. We couldn't control the layoff, Karen said, but we could control how we handled it. This step is crucial and often overlooked. Financial stress clouds judgment. It's one of the top triggers of anxiety, sleep loss, and even health problems. And when you're under pressure, it's easy to make quick emotional decisions that cost you later, like dipping into retirement funds too early or taking on high-interest debt. That's why building a clear, honest budget is one of the smartest things you can do right now. Here's how to start. List all your current sources of income: severance pay, TSP withdrawals, unemployment benefits, spousal income, savings. Know exactly what's coming in each month. Separate your expenses into essential and non-essential. Essentials include mortgage or rent, utilities, food, insurance, transportation. Non-essentials. Think cable packages, monthly app subscriptions, dinners out, clothing, hobby spending. Cut back with intention, not fear. You're not punishing yourself. You're creating flexibility. The less you spend now, the more time you buy to figure out your next steps without rushing into the wrong job or draining your retirement early. Build a short-term survival plan, 3 to 6 months. How long can you stay afloat with your current resources? What will you need to adjust? It's okay if the numbers aren't perfect. What matters is that you're looking at them. And remember, this is temporary. You're not budgeting because you failed. You're budgeting because you're smart. You're giving yourself structure, options, and a little peace of mind in a time that often feels anything but peaceful. Karen said it best. Once we saw it on paper, the fear got quieter. We had a plan. That changed everything. So don't wait for the bills to pile up or the anxiety to take over. Sit down, write it out, and face the numbers. You'll feel more grounded, more focused, and better prepared for whatever comes next. 3. Upskill and reskill. You're never too old to learn. Being laid off after decades of service can shake your sense of identity. You've built a life around structure, contribution, and purpose, and suddenly that rhythm is broken. But just because your job ended doesn't mean your ability to grow, adapt, or succeed has gone with it. Take Anthony, 57, from Virginia. He spent most of his career in a federal communications office, a solid position filled with planning, organizing, and managing teams. When he was let go, he felt invisible in the job market. Everything had changed, he said. Even the job titles were different. But instead of giving into doubt, Anthony leaned into curiosity. He signed up for a short online course in digital project management. something he'd always been interested in, but had never formally studied. The course didn't take months. It wasn't overwhelming, and before long, Anthony was applying his experience in a new context, helping a nonprofit manage its outreach campaigns, part-time, flexible, and fulfilling. This transition wasn't just about work, it was about seeing himself differently. I realized I wasn't too old to learn. I had just stopped giving myself permission to try. For federal employees, many of the skills you've used for years, leadership, communication, coordination, public service, are still highly valuable. The challenge is that the private sector often speaks a slightly different language. Employers want to see that you're comfortable with the tools and methods used today. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to refresh your toolbox. It might mean brushing up on a technical skill, like learning how to work confidently with spreadsheets or exploring the basics of data and digital platforms. It might mean strengthening the soft skills that are already part of who you are. Things like adaptability, collaboration, or public speaking, and learning how to present them with clarity and confidence. There are more resources out there now than ever before. Online classes you can take at your own pace, tutorials that explain things simply, and certifications that show employers you're not just resting on experience, you're evolving. And the act of learning itself can be deeply healing. It reminds you that you are still capable, still curious, still very much engaged with life. Anthony now says that reskilling wasn't about chasing a job. It was about reclaiming momentum. I didn't need to go back to school full-time. I just needed one new skill to open a new door. So if you're feeling stuck, consider this a quiet invitation. Try something new. Learn something small. Grow in a direction you hadn't planned. You're not starting over. You're just starting differently. And often, that's where the best chapters begin. 4. Tap into your network. Don't isolate yourself. Losing a job, especially after years of steady service, can feel deeply personal. For many, it brings more than financial worry. It brings a quiet sense of isolation, like the world has moved on without you. But here's something many people forget in that moment. You're not alone, and you never were. Your experience, your relationships, your name, they still carry weight. And often, the next opportunity won't come from a job board, but from a conversation. Teresa, 54, from Sacramento, knows this firsthand. After working for a federal agency for over 2 decades, she found herself without a clear next step. At first, she stayed quiet. She didn't want to talk about being laid off, didn't want pity or awkward silences. But eventually, she took a small step. She joined a LinkedIn group for former federal employees. She started reading posts, commenting here and there, and one day shared a little about her experience with grant writing. To her surprise, someone reached out. A nonprofit needed help with proposals. The work was flexible, remote, and meaningful. Teresa said yes. That one small connection reopened her professional world. Not with a big announcement, but with a quiet, "I'm available." This is why staying connected matters. After a layoff, it's tempting to withdraw. You might feel embarrassed, unsure of what to say, or simply tired of explaining. But those very moments, when you're vulnerable, when you show up anyway, are often the ones that spark the most genuine support. You don't need to network in the traditional sense. You just need to reach out. Start by checking in with former colleagues or mentors, not to ask for a job, but to reconnect. A short message saying, "I've had a recent change and I'm exploring new paths. Let me know if you hear of anything," is more powerful than it seems. Explore professional groups online. There are communities specifically for retired or transitioning federal employees, for remote contract work, for nonprofit support, for veterans. Whatever your background, there's likely a place for it. You can also look locally. Community events, workshops, and alumni meetups are great ways to ease back into social connection without pressure. And when you're ready, say it out loud. I'm looking for something new. I'm open to opportunities. Here's what I'm good at. Let me know if you hear of anything. People can't help you if they don't know you're open. And you never know who knows someone who's looking for someone just like you. Teresa says she never expected freelance work to come from a casual LinkedIn comment. "I didn't even feel like I was trying that hard," she says. "I was just being honest, and people responded." So, if you've been feeling alone in this season, take one small step to reconnect. Not because you're desperate, but because you're still part of a larger web of experience, trust, and mutual support. The doors you're looking for? They're often waiting on the other side of a simple conversation. 5. Redefine your identity. You are not your job title. For many federal employees, the job isn't just a job. It becomes part of who you are. The title, the role, the years of service. They shape how others see you, and how you see yourself. So, when that title is suddenly gone, it's more than a career shift. It can feel like losing a part of your identity. Mike, 60 from Austin, knows that feeling well. He'd been a branch chief for 15 years. The office knew his name. His team relied on him. His work gave structure to his days and pride to his story. So when he was let go during a wave of restructuring, he didn't just lose a job, he lost his sense of place. "I felt invisible," Mike said. "Like I had nothing to say when someone asked, 'So, what do you do?'" For a few months, he stayed quiet. He felt stuck, not because he couldn't work, but because he didn't know who he was without the badge, the meetings, the title on the door. Then one morning, he opened his garage, dusted off a few old tools, and started making a wooden bench, just to pass the time. That bench turned into a weekend project. The project turned into a hobby. The hobby turned into a YouTube channel, where he shared simple, peaceful videos about building with your hands, finding calm through craft, and rediscovering purpose later in life. Now, Mike's channel has thousands of subscribers. And even more than the numbers, he says it gave him back something he didn't realize he needed. A voice that didn't depend on a job title. This is the quiet truth that many don't talk about. Job loss often leads to identity loss. Unless you catch it and redefine what makes you valuable. You are not your last position. You are not your badge, your pay grade, or your government email address. You are a full person with stories, gifts, curiosity, and resilience that go far beyond your career. The shift begins with reflection. Ask yourself, what gives my life meaning outside of work? It might be family, creativity, helping others, teaching, building, learning. Maybe you've always wanted to volunteer. Maybe you've got a book inside you. Maybe you just want to walk the dog every morning and enjoy the quiet. Write those things down. Name them. Because the clearer you are about what matters to you, the easier it becomes to build a life that still feels whole, even after a professional chapter ends. Mike says that losing his job gave him something unexpected, the chance to remember who he was before the office and who he could become next. "I'm not former branch chief anymore," he says. "I'm Mike. I'm a builder. I'm a teacher. I'm a person again." So if you felt lost without your title, let that be your invitation. Not to forget the past, but to reconnect with the parts of yourself that never needed a desk or a department to matter. Your job ended. Your story didn't. Losing your job after 50, especially after years of service in a federal role, can feel like the ground shifted beneath your feet. It's more than a paycheck. It's a piece of your identity. A rhythm, a role you knew well. But being laid off isn't the end. It's a detour. One you didn't ask for, but one that might take you somewhere more meaningful, more flexible, maybe even more fulfilling, if you're willing to take the first step. You still have value. You still have skills. And you still have time. This chapter may look different than you planned, but it's still yours to write. So today, not next week, not when you feel more ready. Choose one small action to move forward. Review your benefits. Update your resume. Sign up for a short course. Reconnect with someone in your network. Whatever it is, let it remind you. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And if you're feeling uncertain, say it out loud or write it below. I still have value. Let others see it. Let yourself believe it. If this video gave you clarity, hope, or even just a bit of comfort, share it with a friend, a coworker, or someone you know who's walking this same path. Because you're not alone in this. And your career may have paused, but your purpose never has.